We're going to start 118. 118 by Amar Mar. It's a few lines down. What is that? 10 lines down. It could be Nayo.
No, I'm saying it's Amar Aleph or Amar Beis?
Amar Aleph. 118a.
It's Amar Mar. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So we learned yesterday 4 opinions about bringing sacrifices on a bama.
Right.
We had the opinion of Reb Meir that said you can bring donations plus a carbon mincha plus sacrifices for a nazir. Mm-hmm. We had the opinion of the sages that said you could bring only donations, no mincha, no nazir. We had Rabbi Yehuda that said that on a bama gedola the individuals were allowed to bring their obligation sacrifices. And then we had the third opinion, which is the sage. We had the sages again. It's really 5 opinions. We had another opinion of the sages. We said the first sages and the second sages, the difference between them was Nesachim. That's what we concluded. Then we had the opinion of Reb Shimon that says that you bring a carbon pesach as well on a public altar. Even on a large bama, you can bring a carbon pesach, and you can also bring obligation offerings that have a special time.
The reason is you would even because Pesach offering you're supposed to bring separately, right? Everybody brings their own.
Yeah, but it's considered a community offering. Pesach, although individuals.
What would the other opinions say about a Pesach offering? There's 4 opinions, right? Or 5 opinions
right.
Here. So what would the other opinions say about a
Well, Rabbi Yehuda would allow it.
Right.
I don't know. It seems like they wouldn't allow it. On a Bama Gedayla, well, how would they do it?
But what's the rationale behind? Because of the fact that
you don't bring any obligations.
Oh, because that's an obligation, right? So
only donations.
On the Gedayla, right?
At the time.
Oh, so according to those opinions, maybe you don't even bring obligations.
Right.
You don't bring B'chlal obligations.
The community could. The community could, but not the individual.
Got it. Okay, so it makes sense.
Or it could be different. It could be that everyone agreed that you bring a carbon pesach.
Bring it together.
And what Reb Shimon is really saying is that only the carbon pesach, but you don't bring other obligations that are not time bound. And maybe that makes more sense. Everyone would agree that you bring a carbon pesach. Reb Shimon is limiting it to only the carbon pesach. Other people maybe would say you bring obligations that are time bound. Let's see how this works. Okay. Gemara starts off with Amar Mar, Reb Shimon Aimer. Reb Shimon says that you can bring these sacrifices, even the community, it must be the second way we said. Even the community only brings a carbon pesach and obligations that are time bound. The Gemara says, what's the reason for Reb Shimon? My time with the Reb Shimon. The Ksiv, in the pasuk, Vayasu b'nei Yisrael es Pesach beGilgal. The Jewish people did the Pesach, brought the carbon Pesach in Gilgal. So it must be everyone agrees that they brought the carbon Pesach, right? This is, I believe, after Yericha. Gilgal is after Yericha, right? You remember?
Would you say Gilgal was the first place, right?
Yeah, Yericha
was second.
Was right away.
It was immediately. So Gilgal is right after.
Oh.
I think.
Gilgal is second.
I think so.
Gilgal's after Yeshua stopped the sun.
Right. Okay. Gilgal. So they brought the Korban Pesach there. Now in Gilgal there was no temple, of course. This was the time of the Bamas. So you see that you're allowed to bring the Korban Pesach in Gilgal. The only thing is that Pshita. It's obvious that they brought the Korban Pesach. Why does the pasuk even know to discuss this? Of course they brought a Korban Pesach. It was Pesach. Allah Kamashman is coming to teach me something, this pasuk. The Chayves ke'en Pesach hu de Karev. It's coming to teach me that any obligation which would be similar to Pesach you would bring, halav ken Pesach loikarim. But if it's not like Pesach, then you don't bring it. That means if it's not a specific time, which there were other sacrifices, like for example, the community did a sin, and they had to bring these chatas. It was a community. It was a par helam davar. Or these other community sacrifices. According to Reb Shimon, you won't be allowed to bring it. There must be that Reb Shimon is limiting what's allowed to be brought. Everyone would agree that you could bring a Korban Pesach. Reb Shimon is limiting it to what you could put. Okay.
Oh, you're saying everybody would agree.
Morning.
You're saying everybody would agree. Everybody would agree that you could bring the Korban Pesach.
Yeah, Reb Shimon is limiting it to only these types of things.
Only these types of things.
That have a time limit on it, that are coming because of a specific time. However, obligation offerings, even community obligation offerings, are not brought if they don't have a specific time.
What would be? Can you get an example of that?
Yeah, if the community does a sin.
I was gonna say. Oh, so there's no.
It's not coming because of Rosh Chodesh or Pesach or.
I mean, so if a kohen does a sin by mistake, does that go on all the yidden? Is that considered something that?
Kohen
What would be
Gadol.
Kohen Gadol makes a
Kohen
mistake,
Gadol, by that,
and the other people because of him.
no, it was the Sanhedrin that we learned.
Okay.
So the Kohen Gadol makes a mistake; he brings a specific sacrifice,
Oh, so
but I don't think that's
Sanhedrin-
considered a community sacrifice.
So
What
only-
about Rosh Chodesh and Sukkot?
So those are time; those are all because of time.
So that's like
that
Pesach,
would be.
no?
That would be. That would be like Pesach, yeah. You bring the Sa'ir of Rosh Chodesh, which is a Chatas.
Yom
Okay.
Kippur he brings?
Yeah, also because it has a set time. V'idach, what does the other opinion do that says that you do bring other that you do bring obligation sacrifices,
On the main bama.
right? They need the pasuk about the Korban Pesach for Rabbi Yochanan. We're holding at 118a. Dam Rabbi Yochanan. Rabbi Yochanan says, "Mishum Rabbi Bena." Can I open it up so people can take?
Yeah.
And is it a yard site or?
It's my birthday.
Oh, it's your birthday! Oh, this is a real.
Look on the young fellow how he look like.
Sameach.
Look on your son.
You're
he's
getting
like-
younger.
This is for you, please. Give it
Mazel.
to the young boy. You need it. You need it.
You get it early in the morning. Watch your hands shake.
You say when you drink and they go to well, you drink that stuff, put hairs on your chest. Him, you say you put hairs on your
Sticker
beard.
follow. It's from Winn Dixie with sticker follow.
Okay, we trust you. Okay, excellent.
Wow.
Zikr is Yishab Shnas Tzlacha. So everyone will make a bracha. It'll be in the
How
Sfos.
much you are? 25?
60.
20, 30? On each leg.
Oh, like the song. It's a song about 64. Anyway.
Beautiful. Very nice. Thank you.
איפה?
Yishab Shnas Tzlacha.
כן, זה בריא מאוד ללמוד בו.
Okay.
ברוך אתה למכונם שהכל נהיה בדברו.
Amen.
Okay, so Rabbi Yochanan says in the name of Rabbi Bana. It's a very interesting Gemara here. Oral, Mekabel Azar. Listen to this.
Wow.
Someone didn't have a bris. He didn't have a bris. For example, the Jewish people in the desert, they weren't able to have a bris because they didn't have the right atmosphere for it to heal properly. They had to be more careful because of the winds. So
Man.
how do we know that Aral is Makabal Hazah? Because it says Hazah means that they would sprinkle on him if he was Tameh, they would sprinkle on him the ashes and the water from the red heifer, from the paraduma.
So he did it all
Even though he didn't have a bris yet, even though he was an Arl.
Going.
Well, we're talking about any person, any Jewish person that didn't have a bris. So he has like a sort of a tumah on him because he doesn't have a bris. But nevertheless, they were able to sprinkle on him. If he came in contact with a dead body, they were able to sprinkle on him that he... They were able to sprinkle on him that he should become pure from tamei mace, from being coming from a dead body. I'll prove it to you. Proof is like this. What day did they cross over the Jordan? The 10th of Nisan. What day would they have a bris? Because they needed to bring the sacrifice, the Korban Pesach, on the 14th of Nisan. So what day would they have the bris? They would have on the 11th. On the 11th they would have the bris because in the desert they couldn't have the bris. They had the bris when they came out.
So it's the 10th of
Nisan they
this
crossed.
they crossed the Jordan.
So on the 11th they had the bris. So if you go like this, how many times are you sprinkled from the paraduma? Twice. Once on the 3rd day and once on the 7th day. There was 7 days of purification if someone came in contact with a dead body, and the 3rd day would get sprinkled on the 7th day. So the 11th would be. Let's say he started
And
counting
then-
beforehand.
And then you have
So if you
Korban Pesach.
yeah, on the
Before.
14th.
Yeah,
But if you would start counting, if you would need to wait for after the bris to sprinkle on him, yeah, if you need to wait for after the bris, when would be the first time you could sprinkle on him? On the 11th. You'd have to wait for after the bris.
Yes.
So it would be the 3rd day would be the 11th. The 4th day would be the 12th. The 5th day would be the 13th. The 6th day would be the 14th. The 7th day, already after Pesach began, would be the 15th, the 7th day of his purification, which is the second time he's supposed to get sprinkled, would already be too late for him to bring the Korban Pesach. It would be the 15th of Nisan. Pesach was brought on the 14th of Nisan. So this is a proof that the fact that they brought a Korban Pesach in Gilgal means that they started sprinkling on him while he was still an Arl. Before the 11th, they had to purify him. They would wait for the 11th.
They didn't wait until after the bris.
This is a proof. We asked, according to this opinion that's not learning anything from that they did the Korban Pesach in Gilgal, they're not learning what type of sacrifices you're allowed to bring on an altar. It's not restricting the sacrifices. So what is it teaching us? That they brought a Korban Pesach in Gilgal. It's teaching us a very interesting halacha, that even if a person didn't have a bris, he could still be sprinkled upon by the
They're
purified by the waters of the paraduma before the bris. That's the proof that the fact that they brought the Korban Pesach in Gilgal.
Did you have it already or not? Sure. Good.
Okay, continuing on 118a. That was a long explanation for 3 words.
You weren't there.
Tani Tana Kamed Rav Ada Barava. A Tana taught in front of Rav Ada Barava. In ben bama gedel bama ktana la Pesach l'chayves hakvul hamzman. The only difference between a large bama and a private bama and a private altar, public altar and a private altar, is a Korban Pesach and obligations that have a set time. Now, I believe that this is removed, these parentheses. He says, Amalei to Targim Masnisach, after the parentheses, you need to translate that Brisa, Ba'ila Schaiva. Only regarding an Oila. What we're saying is that there are certain sacrifices that could be brought on a private altar as donations. Now that specific type of sacrifice, for example an oila, which could be brought as a donation on a private altar, that specific sacrifice could be brought on a public altar as an obligation. So for example, an oila obligation is the daily tamid sacrifice. That's an obligation. But that cannot be brought on a private altar. That's brought on a public altar. So an oila, which could be a donation on a private altar, an oila could also be an obligation on a public altar. However, that doesn't apply to a carbon chatas, because a carbon chatas, even though it's an obligation, but it's never a donation. So if it can't be a donation, it can't be an obligation on the public altar either. So the ichatas yachid who chayvas the kavilem zman miyika. That's how it's going to be over here. It's supposed to be the opposite. The e, it's supposed to say there's another text over here. The ichatas nedava miyika. Is there such a thing as a donation chatas? There's no such thing as a donation chatas. Hence, since there's no donation chatas on a private altar, so therefore there's no obligation chatas on a public altar. The Gemara asks, if you're looking for a difference between a private altar and a public altar, between donations and
Can I
obligation.
ask you a question, though, Rabbi? What if you're in Gilgal or whatever, and the whole community sins? You bring a chatas.
Yeah, but according to Reb Shimon, the whole community sins because of Sanhedrin Paskin. So, but the problem is that chatas doesn't have a set time to bring it. It's not like a holiday.
Oh, right. That's what I was trying to understand.
Right.
Okay.
So, if we're looking for something that would be a distinction between a donation and obligation, which a donation could be brought on the private and the obligation could be brought on the public, so then why are you saying it's by an oila? Maybe minchas chayva the ikachavitin. Why don't you say that it's talking about a carbon mincha? The carbon mincha you're allowed to bring as a donation on a private altar, and on a public altar you would bring the minchas chavitin, which is another type of mincha, which is an obligation, a daily obligation, with the kohen gadol to bring the carbon mincha. So why did you say it's referring to an oila that you have both a donation and an obligation? Maybe it's talking about a carbon mincha where you have a donation and an obligation. Gemara says, "Kasav ein mincha b'bama." This opinion holds that there's no mincha on a bama. So we had a machlekes before. If there's a mincha on a bama, they said there's no mincha. This opinion would go with that. Okay. Bo l'shila.
So is this chronological? I'm sorry, because we said before boila.
Yeah. Now we're in the Mishnah, and we're discussing. We're going back to the Mishnah. We discussed when they came to Gilgal. Now we're doing a discussion where they come to Shiloh.
Why did they talk about Yerichai when they first came in?
Well, that wasn't a separate altar.
Mm-hmm.
All of this is where the altars were set up. These new halachas take place as the more and more construction was taking place of temple-wise.
I think the Gemara want to show that before that people can come and do korban or whatever it's not a place until the Beit HaMikdash is established. Then only in Yerushalayim, but before they can do it any place they could. No?
Right.
That's
Except in Shiloh.
Yeah, Shiloh started to be more established because Shiloh was built with stone walls.
But Gilgal, they also had a community one. You couldn't just do it anywhere you wanted to. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, I understand.
So you're telling me that they could do it wherever?
But you find out by Shimshon, he done it.
He said he was going to
No,
call.
but
Huh?
Yeah, call him, it's okay.
Anyway.
Shimshon, we found out yesterday, was
Oh yeah, this is important.
he was the angel of Hashem, so
It was a special exception.
Mm-hmm. That's good.
Dispensation.
Take another cookie, look like Chalish on the cookies.
Bola Sheila, I have to hurry because my son's going to tell me that I'm not it's not equal the amount of time per page. Bola Sheila, they came to Shiloh Chulim. You know how do we know that the temple in Shiloh had a stone wall and it had a temporary roof?
All the good things, buddy.
Amar Rab Chia bar Abba, Amar Rab Yochanan. Rab Chia bar Abba says in the name of Rab Yochanan, Kos v'achadayim v'atviyah beis Hashem Shiloh. One says that they were brought. Where's this pasuk? It's in Shmuel. That she brought him to the house of Hashem in Shiloh. This is referring to Chana.
Chana v'Shmuel
Very good.
and Ali Cohen.
That she brought him to the house of Hashem in Shiloh. What does it say? It says the house. Kosev echad omer, vayitesh mishkan Shiloh oihel. Where's this pasuk? This is in Tillim. Vayitesh mishkan Shiloh oihel shikin ba'adam. It's called a tent. It's not called a house. Uksiv vayimas ba'il Yosef u'shevet Ephraim leibachar. It says also in Tillim that God was discussed with the tent of Yosef, and he did not choose the tribe of Ephraim, which means that he neglected or forsook.
So what is the connection Oel Moed לבני Ephraim?
Okay, so the answer is that we're talking about the tent of Shiloh, which was in the tribe of Yosef, which was in the area of Yosef.
Okay.
And Ephraim is the son of Yosef. And we're calling it a tent.
Because even
Okay.
there was
Okay, Tzad.
בגלל שלא היה לו גג.
How is this possible? This is where the pasuk means when it says that we'll come to your resting place over there. You're not allowed to bring other sacrifices in other places. You'll have to bring it over there. That's referring to Shiloh, where Shiloh was the stone. The walls were made out of stone. That's why it's called a house. But the roof was made out of like the tarp, which is the coverings of the Mishkan.
I wonder
So that's
what's
why it's
the
called a
roof
tent
about.
and it's called a house. You follow?
Yeah, no,
You know already
Yeah,
where the
little
Gemara knows it.
Literally.
oh yeah. No, Peretz says something very
Kachi Kadashim.
to me.
It says that the holy of holy sacrifices, the holy sacrifices, were eaten within the walls, of the Mishkan, within the enclosure. However, Kachim Kalim, the lesser holiness, you're allowed to eat wherever you could see Shiloh, or however far Shiloh you could see, or I'm not sure if it means wherever you could see from Shiloh, or whatever distance could see Shiloh. It says B'chol Haraya. I think it means whatever could see Shiloh. Any area that if you would look, you could see Shiloh, you would be allowed to eat the sacrifice in that area. How do we know this? Amar Rabbi says, Damar Kra, it says in the pasuk, be careful, lest you bring sacrifices in every place that you see. It says, B'chol makom iyatamayla. I'm skipping the words, I should tell you. In all the places you're not allowed to bring a sacrifice. Avlata oichel, b'chol makom shataraya. But you are allowed to eat in any places that you could see, which means any place that you could see Shiloh,
you can eat.
You're allowed to eat those sacrifices there. So
So the same thing applied to Yerushalayim, where you can see the
no, actually, because Yerushalayim actually had a wall that could limit it. Shiloh didn't have a wall
Like
around the city, so where would be the limit? So we said wherever you could see, that would be the limit. We're going to see, the Gemara is going to have some good questions later.
בירושלים, בניין עולם, ואז נאסר כל הבמות בכל ארץ ישראל, רק בירושלים. נכון?
Shiloh also. But
Yeah.
Shiloh was temporary.
Yeah.
Because after Shiloh, it became permissible again. In the Beis Hamikdash, it was permanent, forever, never again.
Permanent, yeah, that's the word I want. I mean, permanent. We need to have the permanent place.
Ema, say, we just made a distinction. We said you're not allowed to bring a sacrifice any place where you see, but you're allowed to eat a sacrifice. How do you know it's bringing versus eating? Maybe it's bringing versus something else. Maybe it means you're not allowed to bring any place where you see, but you're allowed to slaughter it anywhere. How do you know it's referring to, it's contrasting it to the eating. Eating, you can eat wherever you could see Shiloh. How do you know that's what it's referring to? It says you're not allowed to bring it in those places. You say, oh, you're not allowed to bring it, but you're allowed to eat it. Maybe it's referring to, you're not allowed to bring it, but you're allowed to slaughter it in those places, and then you would bring it in Shiloh. You would go up to... So Rav Yana Yamakra, Rabbi Yanai says we have a pasuk. Sham Tala v'Sham Tasa. It says where you will do it, and there you will do it, and there you will bring it. Which means that where it's done, where it's slaughtered, that's the same place where you bring it. So we know that if it's brought in Shiloh, it needs to be slaughtered in Shiloh. We're not going to distinguish between offering it up as a sacrifice and slaughtering it. So what are we going to distinguish? What are we going to contrast it with? The eating. The eating could be anywhere that could see Shiloh, but not the bringing it. The bringing had to be actually in Shiloh. Rav Avdimi bar Chasa Amar. It's actually Rav Avdimi bar Chama, they adjust it. That's an easy mistake. He says, Amakra, we have a pasuk. It says, V'loi tana shiloi. Tanas means like affliction or pain. And what it means is, Makaim shekol haroya yisei misaneach alav al achilas kodshim shaloi. It's referring to a place, the place that whoever looks at it gives a krechts. It says, ay, ay, ay. That's where we used to eat the sacrifices. We're trying to show that the sacrifices we're eating in all those places around Shiloh. Now, Rashi says he searched and he couldn't find this pasuk. However, he has a similar pasuk in Yeshua. It's talking about the borders. Okay. Rabavo Amar Amakra. Rabavo says, it says in the pasuk, Ben Paras Yosef, Ben Paras Aliyayin. Ben Paras Yosef means the son that proliferates, has many offspring.
Proliferates, yeah.
Yosef, Ben Paras Aliyayin, the son that has many children on the spring. It says by the eye. Switches it to it's learning it by the eye. What does it mean by the eye? So it says ayin shalei raska lazon lihanis midavar sheina shalai. The eye, which is referring to Yosef's eyes, that did not wish to have enjoyment from something that wasn't his, referring to Potiphar's wife.
Yes.
So tizke v'toichel k'malay will merit and will eat as far as you could see. That means because Mishkan Shiloh was in the territory of Yosef, so the reward is that all the area that could see Shiloh you're able to eat the sacrifices there.
It's like the same area that Shiloh himself. It's like
When it comes to eating.
Yeah, it's spread all over.
For the sacrifices of secondary holiness.
How do you say the Ben Paras Yosef, Ben Paras Alai?
Alayayin.
Yeah.
Alayayin.
This is the blessing that
Yaakov gave to Yosef. Yankov.
that Yaakov gave in Vayechi. Rabbi Yossi bar Chanina Amar, V'ritzayin sheich nisneh. And his will dwells in the bush. Over here we're going to say sneh means hatred. Ayin shlei ratzta leihanis midavar sheina shalai. The eye that didn't want to have enjoyment from something that wasn't his, referring to Potiphar's wife, tizke v'teichal bein hasnuim, will be able to eat amongst the ones that hated him, which is Yosef's brothers. Which means that the area that he's going to be able to eat will spread out to the borders of the other tribes, and will be able to eat because you're able to see Shiloh even from their areas. You'll be able to eat there. Tana. Raya Sha'amru. When we said that you could see Shiloh, Raya Kulai. That means you could see you can see it entirely. V'leya mafsik beinu lebeinai. But it shouldn't be something that's interrupting between. It means even if technically you could have seen, but there's things that are blocking, then it doesn't count. Amar le Reb Shimon ben Eliakim le Reb Elazar. Reb Shimon ben Eliakim tells Reb Elazar, Asber alach, I'll explain it to you. Kagoin be knishten de ma'ayin. Similar to the Beis HaKnesh, the shul of Des Moines. of Ma'oin. Now, this was a gathering place, or shul, where you were able to see Shiloh. It's mentioned several times in the Gemara. It says Rabbi Yochanan was there. Must have been close to Tiberia. However, you can't see Shiloh from Tiberia.
Sometimes yes, depend on the weather. Depend where you are on the mountains over there. You can see a lot.
Oh, you think so?
If it's clear there,
Uh-huh.
you
Yeah,
can
it's
see.
on. Tveria is on a mountain.
No, Tveria is inside of the Kinneret. It's in minus, but the mountain of the Kinneret, you can see far. Sometimes on clear day, you can see a lot.
See a lot.
No, no a lot.
See a lot
A
or a
lot.
lot?
A lot. No, a lot. No,
You
I
said you can see a lot.
don't. No,
Pretty good.
mistaken.
Okay. Whatever the case is, he's giving an example of something that you're able to see without any interruption. Okay. Rav Papa. Rav Papa says, you don't have to see it entirely, you only have to see part of it. Rav Papa has a question. Let's say when he stands up, he's able to see Shiloh, but when he sits down, he can't. Is that considered that he can see Shiloh and he can eat the sacrifice in that area?
Sure.
If you go to the edge of the stream, you're able to see. But if you go into the groove, into the valley of it, so then you can't see. What's the din over there? Is that considered a place that can see Shiloh? Take him. There's no answer for that.
Either one of the two questions.
Right. When Rav Dimi came, Amar, he said, you skipped Rebbe, that's one of the commentaries here. It says, B'shleisha, it says really Barba. It's wild here, the adjustments that are made in the text. It's okay. It says in 4 places, the text says 3 places, I'll just say 4 places, Sharsa Shechina al Yisrael, the Shechina dwelled on the Jewish people. What are these places? Shiloh, Nov, Givon, in the Beis HaMikdash, Beis Elaman. 4 places. In all of these places, it was only the tribe of Binyamin that had the Shechina there. Shenemar, as it says, Chayfif alav kol hayom. Chayfif means hover. It hovers over it the entire day. Kol chfifas le'yela b'chalka shel Binyamin. All of the hoverings of the Shechina, this is the blessing of Moshe to Binyamin. Binyamin Amar Yedid Hashem Yishkin Levetach. Right? Remember that?
What was so special about Binyamin over, let's say, Yosef, who was Yosef at Tzaddik, that he got that reward?
The answer going